Howdy, everyone. It's Jess. Um, I Today I'm gonna be diving deeper into what was discussed in the last video a little bit. More about my parents. Um, because they weren't all bad, but there was more going on behind the scenes than it could be made into just that. Um, and the past week or so, I've been thinking about it more and really just processing all of it. And um, it's gross. Um, there were some redeeming qualities here and there, but um, it's not great. Um, I know they tried in their own way, but it kind of shows to me that they didn't want me. Um, so I guess we will start with my father. Um, my relationship with him started okay. Um, I didn't really want to be going over there. Um, you know, Him and my mom got along okay. After their like separation and the not getting married, and my mom moving on pretty shortly afterwards. Um, he also moved on pretty shortly afterwards too and got married and had another kid. So, um, I think they both just kind of rebounded like immediately, which was not healthy for either of them. Um, my dad wound up getting another girl pregnant, marrying her. Um, she was my stepmom for a while. She treated me like trash. Um, but every time my dad came out to pick me up on the weekend, every other weekend, he would most of the time dress up to like dress to impress. I noticed, um, to try and show that he had money or was doing better than he was. Um, Especially during the times when he wasn't. Um, he worked at a company that made paint, um, Valspar. He worked there for a long time. My grandma did too. She passed away from cancer, and it really affected him and really the entire family over there. Um, but losing that job really affected him. Um, I think he lost it when I was like 11. It was maybe like 2008, around that time. So maybe I was 12. he, in the early years of my childhood, I remember he would always take me and my younger sister. She was 4 years younger than me. When he owned a house, back when he was married, um, he owned a house. We would hang out outside, have fires, go camping, fly kites, and, you know, hang out all the time. Um, but I remember there was one time he smacked my ass for breaking a cup when I was doing dishes. Seemed unreasonable. I think there was another time I got, I can't remember if I was just yelled at or beat for holding my sister in the closet. That one I understood a little bit more, but and I know there was another time when we were staying at, when my visitations were at my aunt's house because he didn't have a house. That I think I hit my sister with a stick, and so he hit me. Um, then there was once he lost the house because he was getting a divorce. He moved back to his mom's house. I can't remember if she had passed away yet or not. I think she might have. Can't remember. She might not have yet. Um, but they had like 8 sheds on the property that they had gotten from a Boy Scout like camp that they just kind of hauled there, and there they are. They're all full of shit, but he lives in one of them. He has a roommate in there too, or at least did. He's since moved out. My dad, he lives with his brother now. In that time when he was living in the shed, visitations happened at my aunt's apartment, one of them, which was just down the road, maybe 2 miles. Slept on an air mattress. I'd always wake up on the floor because it had holes. It would pop. And then I remember my aunt moved again at one point because I think rent was too expensive, so she had to find somewhere else. And it was yet again just down the road. So visitation was now there. It was better than the apartment. Still sleeping on an air mattress, but there was more room. My dad was still mostly spending time with us because there wasn't a lot to really do. I was noticing he was drinking more around this time, when he didn't have the house anymore after the divorce, to the point that because of the fact of how similar him and I looked at the age of like 11 or 12, when we went into, I can't remember if it was a liquor store, gas station, whatever, when he was buying the alcohol, like put it up on the counter, they looked at me for like the, the ID and the purchasing. Like they thought I was going to be buying it. Um, I and it only got worse as time went on. Um, I remember after the divorce as well, questions about my mom and like family over there got increasingly just more. Um, he'd ask how my sisters are doing, how my aunts and uncles are doing, how my grandparents are doing, just all the time, like what they're up to. And he seemed very, very interested in their lives, like almost obsessed. Um, at a young age, he would take us to his uncle's house, which was down the road from a park, where we would park at the uncle's and then walk to the park, because the park you couldn't go there like park for free, but you could go there for free if you walked. And that was fun. Had a good time. Like all of the moments that he spent with us were good. But towards the end, it became less, and it became about something else. Um, he once my aunt moved away, um, and the visitations had to happen at his like shed slash my grandma's slash uncle's house. Um, since then, my grandma had passed away. The house had gone to my uncle, um, and on that property there lived another one of my uncles, my dad, and someone else. I maybe a family friend. I don't like him. Um, yeah. Um, but this house is disgusting. It was never cleaned in the entire time I lived in it. Um, so once visitation was solely happening there, and it wasn't just like visiting there to say hi to the relatives anymore. Um, I no longer had a bed. Um, I was sleeping in the same chair that my grandmother was in when she had cancer. Um, a chair that was decrepit and like had no cushions. It was hard and like springs, like it hurt to sit in. But all of them were like, it's the most comfortable thing. But I didn't want to disagree with them for one reason, and that's because I remember as a kid, they showed me this rod that they've used. that was used on them, um, and that they used on some of my cousins. It's made of plexiglass. Um, and I just felt like if I disagreed with them or didn't if I said anything bad about like grandma or her chair or anything, or like made it feel like I was being disrespectful by saying your house is gross, you guys need to fucking clean it. You have fruit flies everywhere. It smells gross in here. There's cobwebs covered in dust from God knows when. Um, like I'm covered in flea bites. Like like I don't have animals at home. Like I only have fish and an iguana. And yet when I come home from here, I'm covered in flea bites. Like when I was there, I didn't change my clothes because I didn't want the rest of my stuff to smell like there. And then eventually my parents started noticing that I was leaving in the same clothes that I went in. And so I would just stay in the same clothes the whole time until they came to pick me up and switch on the last day so that they thought I was changing clothes. Um, uh, I'd say I don't know that I ever went into the toilet room, as they called it. It wasn't a bathroom. They were separate. The sink and bathtub were in a different room than the actual toilet. The toilet was just in its own room, like separate part of the house. Um, but it was so disgusting, like spider webs all over, and so cramped, so full of old knickknacks, like just and usually the seat was just left up with just shit, like actual shit, toilet paper, piss, like just all of it, just overflowing in it. Usually no liquid, just in it. To the point where I would go in, if I was going to go in the bathroom, like in there and like use it because I didn't want to go outside anymore and get bundled up for the winter, I would go in. Before I went in, I would take a big gulp of air, hold my breath, and hope that I could make it. When I brought my wife over to that house to introduce her to that side of the family for the first time, I stressed to her so much to use the bathroom before we got there. Like, make sure you use the toilet before we get there. I don't care where you go. You don't care where you go. You don't want to go there. Like, that was it. You don't want to go there. And when she got in the house, she at least understood part of it. She never went in the toilet room, but she saw the mess that was still there, and she understood. Once visitation started at that house, I didn't see a lot of my dad. Um, he kind of disappeared. Um, I don't know. I think for a little bit, he tried. I remember there were a couple times, I think before, maybe when I was 10, he took us out camping in the backyard there. Um, maybe when I was 13, but it was so infrequent. He would always say he wanted to do all these things, that he had all these plans, but all he wound up doing was sitting in that shed on his computer, playing his Facebook games and drinking alcohol. I don't even think he knows, maybe he does, that from the age of like 8 or whenever I had some sort of money, from birthdays or allowance or whatever paper money I had, once I knew he was struggling, I would slip the money to him without being direct. $5, $10, $20, from like the ages of like 8 to probably like 21 at least. Put it in his glove box, put it on the kitchen table underneath the salt shaker in the mail, like underneath the mail pile, on his computer desk, slightly underneath the keyboard, in a drawer. He'll find it at some point. What he'll do with it, I don't know. Not my concern. There were also a lot of times when I was staying there that I know he didn't eat because he was worried about his kids eating. But what he didn't know is that it went the other way too. Um, I didn't eat both because I knew he wasn't eating, and also that house was disgusting. I didn't feel comfortable to do much in it. So I just kind of drowned myself in video games and all of that to hide. Um, that was what I had. Um, see. I remember whenever we went out to like stores and stuff, he would always say, "You can pick out whatever you want." Um, it always felt like he was trying to buy my love. When like that's I I don't know. I don't want stuff. Like for me, it was always the things I want aren't things you can afford, and I know that, so I'm not going to ask for them. You know, like, and I will just wait until I can get them myself. Um, I Once I left for college, he became a different person as well. Um, his drinking got a lot worse. Um, he started calling me, especially once I got together with my wife, like all the time, usually 1 to 2 times a week, at least once a month, and they'd go on for sometimes 4 hours of just him being drunk and talking about shit. Usually there'd be music in the background that he's listening to that it's drowning out the sound. I can barely hear what's going on. And he's rambling about the old days. I remember there was one conversation where he was joyfully recounting the story of when he beat me with a stick, or when he had to get after me for hitting my sister with a stick. Like, but from what I remember in the conversation, it was hitting me, but I've kind of, it's been a long time since we had it, and I'm kind of done with him now. So, um, every time he called, he would always request me to do ridiculous voices, whether they were accents or movie characters or things like that. And I would say, no, I don't want to, or I would do them. And then he would make me do it more. Or even if I said no, he'd say, do it anyway. Or just continue to pester me until I did it. Um, and that got annoying real quick. Um, he also really liked calling me super drunk and depressed about just everything. His past choices, war stories, but he wouldn't actually talk about any of it. He'd just vaguely mention stuff, and that's it. And I can't help you if you won't help yourself. If you're going to continue to drown yourself in alcohol and sad shit, then that's where you're going to be. Um, it feels like my entire life for him has been he has been using me to try and gain my favor to get back with my mom. Um, Trying to use my love for him in some way to get them back together. Or my hope for a united family or some shit. Um, I don't have that. Um, that dream died a long time ago. The moment he decided to ignore everything I've told him. When I told him that I've been institutionalized for trying to kill myself, and he just went back to oh poor me when I was going through some things with other friends that were not great. He was still focusing on himself. When I came out to him, it was still only about him. He never took any time to get to know me. He only wanted me to be his son, because that's all he ever told me growing up, was that you are my son. You will pass on the name. You will pass on my bloodline. You are the blood of kings and all this nonsense. Um, it's a bunch of bullshit. Um, I'm a woman. Always have been. Well, I guess the way that the relationship ended is probably the same way this country is going to end, and that's with Trump. So, I guess if this video ever stays up online long enough for someone to see it, howdy.